This hour is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Come along and welcome aboard to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Coy O'Leary here on this Tuesday, January 28th. We appreciate you joining us. Jake's at the wheel, keeping everything on the track. Todd O'Leary's here in the backcourt, keeping things on site as well. We hope you've had a great start to your week. Chronic Hoosiers on the program today. Plenty to talk about. Indiana prepares to take on the Nittany Lions tomorrow night. The commissioner, the new commish, was in town yesterday visiting Indiana. We'll talk about that. The women were in action last night. Eric Gordon scores the most points in the NBA ever by an IU grad. And Peyton Ramsey, transfer portal, baby. So we got a lot to talk about. Todd O'Leary, how are you?
I'm great. You called that transfer portal for Peyton Ramsey. I didn't think that would happen, but you called it.
Well, I mean, it's not like I wish I could take a lot of credit.
It's not a given, though, right? It's not a given. He can still stay, right?
He can. He's got. It allows him to check his options out, but I highly doubt that he does. I mean, he's going to go somewhere. He's not going to play next year. I mean, Michael Penix is the guy. I know a lot of people got worked up because Peyton had a decent run, but even with that, it's not as good as what it would have been with Michael or Penix. So, but I wish him the best of luck. He's going to be a good quarterback for someone. He's going to have to find a system though that lets him fit in, like Kalen DeBoer did, and it may be at Fresno State of all places, but because he is limited, he does not have an arm to throw the ball downfield. So it has to be in a system just like Kalen DeBoer that runs that rat-a-tat-tat-tat offense where you're just popping them out like popcorn, but you're throwing 10, 15, 20-yard passes that works right within his arsenal. But I think that he'll have plenty of suitors. He's just such a good-minded kid. He's smart. He's a coach's son. He's going to be a coach. He's obviously a talented athlete. So nothing but plus on the plus side for him, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, watch, he'll end up at like LSU or Michigan or somewhere like that.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Laugh his way all the way to the bank.
I was thinking that very thing. Well, it's just like Peyton. I hate to say his name, Peyton Manning, because now I'll be getting him reversed all the time. But, when Peyton Manning won his last Super Bowl with Denver, he couldn't throw the ball 30 yards. I mean, his shoulder was wrecked, but he did what he needed to do to manage that offense to a Super Bowl win. And that's a lot like what Peyton Ramsey does. He manages the team with very accurate throws, but he is limited throws.
Well, so, in the years that Tom Brady was, I mean, when the Patriots were at their best, I mean, heck, the majority of his throws are 6-yard throws. I mean, they're getting out of your hands quickly.
Efficiency more than anything.
Yep.
And he's been pretty damn efficient. I mean, I think
he's been, yeah. I mean, he's a Hoosier. He's someone we're going to root for no matter what, unless he goes to Purdue or Kentucky. We'll root for him no matter what.
I will guarantee you he will not be appearing on a team that Indiana plays.
You don't think?
No.
How are you going to guarantee that?
I guarantee you that I don't. They can't just because he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't want that. I'm not sure if there's anything the school can do to contest that transfer since it's a grad transfer if that were to happen. But it's like Coy Cronk. He's going to Iowa. But Indiana and Iowa don't play next year, so those teams won't cross.
Yeah, I'm gonna study up. I'm gonna learn all the ins and outs of that transfer portal and that rule because I'm really not sure what they are allowed and not allowed to do. It seems like you can just basically go anywhere.
I think you pretty much can, especially as a grad transfer. Yeah. I don't think that there are restrictions. I don't know that the schools can restrict. Like when you sign a letter of intent and you want to get out of that, you can get out of it, but the schools, like when you transfer, a school can put restrictions on where you go. And obviously, like, they don't want to see, like, the Curtis Jones situation tomorrow night. That didn't happen like normal circumstances, because normally you get one, you got a person who's transferring once, where Curtis Jones, this is his third school now, as he visited Oklahoma State in between. So he came to Penn State from Oklahoma State.
Why was Joey Brunk eligible right away?
He's a grad transfer.
Second year? In his he only went
third year.
He only go 2 years?
He's a smart kid, I guess. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. Used a redshirt season.
Wow.
Graduate in 3 years. Yeah, smart kid.
He did in 3 years what I did in 5.5. Huh. Interesting. Interesting. I'm going to have to start respecting him a little bit more.
Tim hit us up on the text line, says, I know how Todd likes not so important stats. Here's one. IU is in a 5-way tie for second of the Big Ten. School's overall record 15-5. Maryland is 16-4.
That is not true.
Which one? That you're not in that information?
That they're in a 5-way tie for second. They're not.
I didn't think they were either.
Well, Illinois and Michigan State are tied for first, so whoever is behind them is tied for third at best.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of teams that are ahead of Indiana. I mean, Maryland's 6-3, Iowa 6-3, Rutgers is 6-3, Indiana's 5-4. So
who played? Who played at Iowa last night?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Blue, boy, they had a chance for another incredible road win.
Boy, what if they'd have gotten that? Whew.
Did you watch it? Did you see much of it?
I saw just a little bit of it. Man, it was
They were up 12.
good Big Ten game.
With 12 with 8 minutes to go, and got beat. Barely scored after that. Wisconsin was.
Iowa hanging in there. They've got themselves in a nice little position.
Yeah, they really do. And they shot the ball horribly last night, and still were able to come out with a win. I mean, right now. I mean, I know you're not trying to get into that conversation, but right now, who would your player of the year be in the country? Like
man,
who's the player of the year in the country?
See, that's not fair for me to answer right now, because I haven't looked at enough outside of the Big Ten. I'll be honest with people. I have not looked at enough players outside of the Big Ten, and so I would be slanted towards seeing guys like Luka Garza and those kind of guys play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, but I mean, really, it's coming down to Luka Garza's name's going to be in the last three.
There's no way you don't.
I mean, the kid from Marquette, Howard, he's up there just because he's leading the country in shooting and probably scoring or close to it.
How good is Vegas? Yesterday, all right, Wisconsin loses at Iowa, 62-68, 6-point difference.
Yeah.
The spread was 5.5.
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Get out of here with that crap, man. Come on.
It's unreal. I mean, it's amazing.
Nuts. I mean, that is freaking nuts.
I would love to know the science behind how they do that, because it's but like here's an example. I was just thinking about this yesterday, which is interesting. So Illinois beats Purdue at Illinois by 1 million. I mean, by 20 some plus. And then Illinois, this is how unrespected Illinois is across the country. Then less than 2 weeks later, they go to Purdue, and they've already got another road win on their schedule since that. They already win at Wisconsin after that Purdue game. They go to Purdue, and they're a 6-point underdog when they get to Purdue. And I understand the home and homes, like a lot of times that ends up being the case, but not when – I mean, Illinois beat Purdue, then they went to Wisconsin and won, then they beat Rutgers, then they beat Northwestern, and then they play Purdue again on the road, and I just don't understand how Vegas comes up with some of the stuff they get. Illinois is just, my whole point in all of that is Illinois is the least respected team in the Big Ten right now, nationally.
Who do you think in the NBA, what former Hoosier has scored the most points ever in an NBA game?
Well, you just told me
Who?
in the opening.
Who?
Eric Gordon.
Yeah, but how many points?
Oh, I don't know. 61.
He scored 50 last night.
Did he really?
Yep.
Huh. That's the most ever by a
That is the most ever by a former Hoosier. Here's what's I saw this last night. Jake sent this to me that he saw somewhere, which is a really cool stat. But it's cool because of one common denominator. The previous record had been 48, and that was achieved 3 times. Mike Whitson did it once, and Walt Bellamy. Remember that name?
Yeah, of course.
Walt Bellamy did it twice. Then
Really?
at 47 points, Victor Oladipo did that once, and Walt Bellamy. Then at 46, Tom and Dick Van Arsdale. How'd they do it both together? 46 points, along with Walt Bellamy. Then at 45 points, Victor Oladipo there, along with Walt Bellamy. Dude was a scoring machine, man.
Yeah, he was a monster.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think he was bigger than everybody else at that time.
I'd say so, man. He did it.
I'm looking up the stats on that Eric Gordon thing. The crazy part about that, he did that on 22 shots. Now he got to the free throw.
Oh, yeah. His stats were nuts. Where I had
14 of 22 for 50 points.
6 of 11 from behind the arc.
Yeah.
And the Rockets, who'd they beat?
Utah
without Michael Westbrook or Harden, James Harden.
Michael Westbrook? That's a new guy? Is that Russell's brother?
They didn't have Russell Westbrook or Harden on the game last night.
You know what that's called? You know what that's called? Addition by subtraction.
Next man up.
No, it's called addition by subtraction. That finally got rid of the ball stopper.
Isn't it kind of amazing to have your 2 leading scorers out and have some guy go for 50?
Yeah. and win on the road against a really good team. That's the funny part about it.
I mean, that's got to be nice for them.
I mean, in that scenario, although he's in a really good place, and I don't even claim to be an NBA guru, but man, would you if you're Eric Gordon, would you want to continue your playing career playing with James Harden or not?
Man, it's hard to say because you're always going to be second fiddle. Now you're third fiddle.
Yeah, and I mean, there's
you got
nights
Harden
when
and Russell Westbrook in there. I mean, gee whiz.
I won't waste your time talking about the NBA because I don't want to talk about it either.
Well,
but good for the Hoosiers. Good for a former Hoosier. I like it. Oh, I know Jake will be mad at us. Jake's an NBA nerd.
Jake, are you going to go off for 50 tonight?
No, it's Tuesday. We play
Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday league. They're Wednesday, Thursday nights.
Oh, Tuesday's dark.
Yeah,
it's dark in the league.
Tuesdays they're off night. They ice their
Tuesdays
knees,
their travel. Tuesdays their travel day.
Yeah,
I gotta rest up and
get their
travel.
Take their oxygen, get their oxygen, and ice their knees.
Metamucil.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to get that icy hot soaking in the day before.
Man.
Hey, they're rubbing that icy hot in there. You walk in, it smells like a meth lab.
Yeah, like Shaq walking around with icy hot all over him.
Exactly. Man.
Obviously nothing to talk about today.
Chronic Hoosier on the program today. Stay tuned. We've got that. Plenty more as the Hoosiers get ready to take on Penn State tomorrow night. We're going to hear from the new commissioner of the Big Ten as well, and Archie Miller, and I forget, Devontae Green as well. We got lots to get to. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy and Larry coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Ryan Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hi, this is A.J. Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Larry here on this Tuesday, January 28th, joined now by one of our absolute favorites. It wouldn't be Chronic Tuesday without Chronic Hoosier, and he's with us now. Chronic, how's it going, my brother?
Cannot complain. You know, it's been kind of a wild week in the hoops world. Obviously, with Kobe's passing in the middle of the game this Sunday, that kind of staggered me, man. I'm not going to lie. It was one of those things where you kind of have to take a step back, and you know, Kobe's younger than I am, and that's kind of tough to process. I think the suddenness of it, you didn't really expect that to happen, but it kind of gave pause in the middle of the basketball game. I knew it kind of threw a pall over that contest, and then you know, the basketball game itself didn't do a whole lot to make matters better. You know, and as difficult as it was to process all of it in real time, I know personally I was pretty frustrated with the whole lot of it. You know, waking up the next morning, eating breakfast with my kids, kind of putting things into perspective, both in life but also with the basketball team, with the Hoosiers. You know, this is a team that I think we knew, and we heard several. I mean, you heard Calvert tell us at Midnight Madness, this is going to be a year for development. There were a lot of really good basketball players on this team, but it was going to be a matter of them maxing out their potential and, more than anything, finding a way to play together as a team. And as I was looking back at all the things that transpired on Sunday, what struck me early in the first half, my podcast compatriot Zach Osterman had mentioned But this game was starting to smell an awful lot like Indiana State when Maryland was just throwing everything up that was finding a way to hit the bottom of the net. And it was a little troubling for a second to remember exactly what that game was like. And, you know, it was very much in the cards, I guess, at that point. And, you know, certainly not a fan of moral victories, but, you know, it's remarkable that in just the span of that second half, not only did Indiana find a way to battle back in, get on top for most of it, they found a way to fight through it. And obviously, you know, they had some errors in execution there in the final 2 minutes that ultimately cost them the game. But I think what we saw from this Indiana team was promising on a lot of levels, not the least of which they certainly took Maryland's best punch. I think even Turgeon would tell you that was the best they've come out all season long from an efficiency standpoint. And Indiana was, you know, withstood the charge and found a way to get back in it. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's certainly an unfortunate loss. It's going to sting for a long time. But it kind of gives you a little bit of hope that a team that was resilient enough to fight back from that is hopefully resilient enough to take some lessons from that and you know, and sharpen the tools and come back at it with even more, you know, vigor as they round out the back half of the season here.
Yeah, they looking for the positives. They certainly took every. We talked about this yesterday with Todd. Man, they took every punch that Maryland threw, and they were several punches in that first half. And Indiana withstood that, came back. They had the wherewithal to fight and take the lead. And then things went sideways. But you got to take your hat off to Maryland. Man, how about a team that goes into Assembly Hall against a team like Indiana, who fought like Indiana did yesterday, and comes out with a win? Man, that is a hell of a win for that Maryland Terrapin squad.
Oh, no, unquestionably. There's no doubt about it. You know, you could see, looking at Turgeon on the bench, you could see no differently than Archie got the response he was looking for. You know, that very much had the potential to snowball the exact opposite way from the first half on Maryland. When you get Assembly Hall riled up like that, especially when you throw in some suspect officiating and the way that can really turn that crowd's energy, that can be a really tough place to keep your composure and get your team back in the lane you're trying to keep them in, as far as, you know, running the stuff you're trying to do and playing the way you're trying to play. And, you know, credit Maryland. They did a heck of a job. I thought Cowan was absolutely phenomenal in doing exactly what his team needed situationally. You know, one of the challenges in games like that, and Indiana was able to avoid it whenever you find yourself in a deep hole. You know, fortunately, the three ball was working and kept them within contact in the first half. But it can be real easy, and we've seen all too often with these Hoosiers. Sometimes when that shot goes in, it just gives everybody the sense that they've all got green lights now to let it go. You know, our season averages be damned. And, you know, quite the opposite on the Maryland side. Once Indiana had really stretched that lead out, you know, their guards stopped settling for some of those shots that they just couldn't miss in the first half. You know, Indiana was switching up the way we were defending, hedging a little bit less hard, trying to stick with them a little closer in the pick and roll, and they absolutely exploited it. You know, that's absolutely the reason that Archie had them hedging so hard in the first half, is he knew those guards are really, really tough coming off screens. Once they get downhill, they can create plays for themselves as well as their teammates. And you saw Cowan do just that in the second half. You know, when we weren't leaving men as open as we were in the first, and we were sticking a little bit closer to our assignments, they found out a way, you know, just drive the lane on us and break the defense down and get it that way. And it proved to be effective for them. And I think more than anything, too, you just see the value of situational awareness in some of those high leverage moments in the game, not settling for a low probability shot, you know, getting what's going to be best, getting it in where you need to in the clock as well. And I thought Maryland did a great job of that late, maximizing what little time they had left, and ultimately enabled them to steal the win away from Indiana.
Yeah, I rewatched that entire game, Chronic, and exactly like you said, Indiana, instead of working that very end of the game off, they could have taken a lot of clock off. They settled for some shots they didn't really need to at the front end of the shot clock that they didn't need to. And so there's a lot of things that can be done differently, and I hope they learn from. They certainly have the opportunity this week because they're on the road tomorrow night, Chronic, at a place that used to be one of those nice victories you could go find for yourself. That's no longer the case, as Penn State is one of the teams fighting at the top of the Big Ten standings.
No, it's been a remarkable turnaround out there in Happy Valley. There's no doubt about it. And obviously, you can see it in Rutgers too this year. A lot of places that have been traditionally doormats of the Big Ten now find themselves right in the thick of it. And there's been the running theme throughout the year this year, just how difficult games are on the road. Indiana's got one under their belt now, and I don't think you can understate the importance of that Nebraska win. You got to see it to be it often, and to go into an opposing gym. To face a hostile crowd, let's be honest, to face some refs some whistles that are a little less than favorable, not getting the calls you're traditionally going to see when you're playing at home. It's quite a challenge for a lot of these teams, but Indiana's got that under their belt now. They're going to have to figure out a way. I think at the end of the day, thought they did a great job in the last week of taking care of the basketball, trying to eliminate some of those mistakes that were making victory even more difficult to them. And that's just going to up the stakes on all of those things. They're going to have to take care of the ball. They're going to have to, more than anything, I think they're going to have to start taking some smart shots. Indiana often this year has found themselves in a game of runs. And I know it's kind of cliche. I know a lot of games ultimately end up being that way. But you can look across the country and probably none more so true than with Indiana. They're a way in which they can go hot and cold, where buckets can just kind of dry up for extended periods of time. So just the importance of wise shot selection, the importance of taking care of the basketball, more than anything as well, the importance of no matter what's happening offensively, sticking to the game plan and defensively, and just, like they have here in the last couple of games, give yourself a way to be in it here in the last 2 minutes and then see whose execution's better.
Absolutely. The ladies win last night, so that gets them another win as they have had a good season. They went on a little slide there for a minute, Chronic, losing 3 in a row, but they're back on the winning side now with back-to-back wins last night at home against Minnesota and previously to that on the road at Penn State.
Yeah, that was a tough stretch there. I think Terry Morin's crew kind of hit the wall for a little bit after having a lot of early success this season. They had to kind of refine themselves here. And, as has often been the case with this squad, she's got a host of weapons available. Last night it just happened to be Grace Berger, who I believe went for a career-high 25, nabbed a double-double with 11 boards, and found a way when a lot of her other co-stars were not necessarily having their best game to keep Indiana in it. I think right now they find themselves, if I'm not mistaken, T4 in the league. So they're still, in a good spot. I think, anybody close to the program here is going to tell you this team has championship potential. Now, obviously, they've got to turn around and make that potential a reality, and it's going to be infinitely tougher with that stretch that they just came out of. But, at the end of the day, I think more than anything for Coach Moore, it's important to remind these girls who they are and what got them where they are at this point and find a way to get back to some of that. And sharing the ball and playing really, really tough defense is going to go a whole long way as far as putting more W's than L's up in the column for them. And they found a way to get back to that here in the last couple of games. So be curious to see if they can keep that going. And, there's still plenty of basketball left for them to make a run and possibly get that banner up.
Absolutely. I was thinking that the ladies would be fighting for the Big Ten championship, and I still think that they will. But it's getting a little tougher at the top than it had been on that side of the ledger. You have Maryland and Northwestern, and there's a team that I'm leaving out. But there's several good teams there that they're going to be fighting.
Iowa's sitting on top right now.
Iowa, yes.
Yep, they are at 8-1 right now, which just makes that loss in Iowa City sting that much harder.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts. They had that one.
It does, but you know what? I think they also have to remember, that they are capable of going into their very gym and taking them all the way down to the wire, giving them everything they had. Arguably that game very easily could have tipped in Indiana's favor. It didn't. But the reasons that they got themselves in that position remain. And I think for Coach Moore, that's going to be key for the remainder of the season is keeping that in the forefront. because this is a team that can beat anybody in the conference right now, and any gym in the conference for that matter. So they've got, I believe they've got 8 regular season games left, still plenty of basketball left. They take care of their own. It's going to be awful tough for those teams that are just ahead of them. Northwestern and Maryland 1 game up, Iowa 2 games up. If they do their job, let the chips fall where they may, and just see if they don't find themselves in contention for that title here at the end.
Absolutely. Well, Chronic, I hope everything else is going well for you right now. How's the wintertime doldrums happening for Chronic Hoosier?
It's my daughter and I were talking on the way to school today as I was dropping her off. It's getting light a little bit earlier. The cold isn't quite as bitter. I don't know if it's just the mildness of the season or if it's finally the skin thickening a little bit. But you know what, man? We are staring at the end of January. February is upon us, shortest month of the year, and behind that, not just spring, but tournament basketball. So I think it's going to be a really fun. It's going to be a really, really exciting month around Bloomington, with so much still up in the balance to be decided here. And at the end of the day, I think when you step back and you look at where all the programs are and their season progression, this is a journey. And I think it's easy to forget, as with our aspirations, just how hard that journey can be at times. It can be so long you forget how far you've come in short periods of time. And I think to be looking at a couple of basketball teams that have a whole lot of potential in front of them right now, you've got 1 month where you've got to find a way to continue to get better and just see how wild March can get for both of them here. So excited, not wishing it away just yet. I don't mind putting on the lighter coat as opposed to the heavier one at this point, but excited to see exactly how winter can finish up for us here, man.
Absolutely, man. Me too. Well, we appreciate you joining us as you do every week, and hope you have another great one, and we'll look forward to having some good things to talk about next week.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim. Have a great day.
You betcha. There's Chronic Hoosier joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. We're back with plenty more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Graham. Keep up with the Hoosiers on the Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
You got Penn State, you got Ohio State. Both games are on the road this week, so it's no rest, huh?
No, I mean, I think that's the one thing.
They're getting rest.
They're getting rest. They got a couple weeks off before they play us. It's very unique that Michigan State got a week. Maryland had about 6 days. I think Penn State's off this week before they play us. Ohio State's got a good week. They must think we're real good or something. I don't know. Maybe everybody in the league needs a week to prepare for us. But I honestly think that, though, at the end of the day, some of that's overrated. You know, so much about your players now is playing and rhythm, and we're in a good rhythm playing. We're going to have to go on the road here on Wednesday and keep it simple. We got to go out there and play well against a real good team on the road, though. I know that.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Archie Miller.
There's Coach Archie Miller talking about the upcoming schedule for the Indiana Hoosiers. Also, this week in town, the new Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren has began a trek to visit all 14 campuses of the Big Ten Conference and starts with Indiana. He's been here for a few days, as a matter of fact. He attended the Indiana-Maryland game a few days ago and was at the Indiana Minnesota game, women's game last night. He said he wants to get out to all 350 teams, see all 350 teams. He's got 4 out of the way so far, Todd.
Yeah, well, that's a good start. He I hope one of his first orders of business is to work on some of the officiating in the league, because
it's funny you bring that up, because actually I'll have to have Jake find that clip. There's a clip about that we'll have to pull up, Jake. You have that? Okay, yeah. But let's talk about right now. One of the things that has been is the scheduling in the Big Ten. The Big Ten has gone to on basketball. They've gone to 20-game schedules, and in football, they had already gone to a 9-game conference schedule. We'll talk about the football in a bit, but he was asked about the basketball scheduling yesterday.
College basketball going to 20 games. Mm-hmm. Basketball, is that something you see sticking, and are there maybe other things that as you begin to think about, kind of walking into the job in the middle of basketball season, the Big Ten can do to kind of push itself out ahead of the field in college basketball?
And again, I'm a big believer, and this goes back to my days at the NFL, and the great Dick Vermeil, who's a mentor of mine, would say that, is that, at the end of the day, to win a championship, a Super Bowl, you're going to have to win enough games to get into the playoffs, and then you're going to have to win all of your games in the playoffs to touch a Lombardi trophy. And so that's something that has been in my mind. I think the more you can create an environment where people are battle tested. And so I like the 20-game concept. I like a very tough schedule. So what we've done with the Gabbard games and the Big Ten ACC Challenge, our players, by the time that they get in our conference tournament, but especially in the NCAA tournament, I don't think they fear any teams or any conferences. They've played them. And they've played a lot of games. They've played a lot of quality basketball. And I strongly believe in years like this year, it will be very positive to us as the NCAA selection committee starts to choose teams. So I'm a big believer that it's you need to be challenged. Competition is critical. And I think the more that we can continually allow our teams to play games in our conference, but not only games in our conference, but games with other conferences, the better off in the long term that we're going to be. So I like the structure as it stands right now. And again, because we're in the midst, when you think about it, I actually became formally commissioner on January 2nd, right in the middle of basketball season, and I'll be able to put my eyes, on it and see how it shakes out. But I like the way the schedule has been structured up to this point in time.
That's Commissioner Kevin Warren, Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. Satisfied with how the things are going as far as the scheduling wise, which I didn't expect to say a whole lot different. But I mean, to say that he likes the schedule because he likes the this conference battle tested. Well, I think other people can get battle tested because we saw a lot of people playing big games early in the season, Todd, that they could participate in. But a 20-game schedule is something that you didn't have to deal with back then, conference-wise. Do you think it makes much difference at all in basketball?
It's some years it's going to make a big difference, and I think other years it's not. And at least for the foreseeable future, the parity in the Big Ten and as good as as many good teams as there are, I think that can be a benefit and a positive. I think if this was a year, or if there are years when there's, maybe 5 or 6 teams that are not very good, I think it could almost work against you a little bit. And he's stepping into a situation. He didn't create this. He's inheriting this situation, and he's not going to walk in and say, no, it's stupid, and we're not going to do that for very long. But I mean, on the flip side of it, right now it is kind of a benefit, and it is going to give an opportunity to, some teams that are going to finish below 500 probably in the Big Ten to still make the NCAA tournament because of the quality of some of the wins that they're going to have. And, but then on the flip side of that, the Big Ten is different in that, the style of play is different. And a lot of times, you get a style like a Northwestern or like Wisconsin, even, where they're really kind of slowing it down. Then you go play in the NCAA tournament and you play against a team that like of West Virginia, or you play against just a team with a totally different styles. If you haven't had an opportunity to play someone like that, I'm not sure the battle-tested Big Ten teams are going to prepare you for something like that. So, I mean, I don't know. You can answer that. I can make an argument both ways for it. So I guess it's probably, it's not going to change anytime soon. So it's not really worth trying to debate it.
Yeah, Jake, find that clip about the officiating, because that plays right in to what Todd just talked about. But after that particular clip, I asked him, the commissioner, about on the football side of things. The Big Ten Conference is the only conference that requires its teams play 9 conference games. Everyone else is playing 8. And the general fan may say, well, what difference does that make? Who cares? It's a big difference, because all those other conferences that are only having to play 8 conference games, that 4th game, that extra game they have, they go out and they schedule themselves another win. So these SEC teams, these ACC teams, they get to go schedule 4 wins, and you only need 6 to be bowl eligible. So it makes a big difference when you only have to win 2 games versus having to win 3 games, especially when you play in the Big Ten Conference, and especially more so when you reside in the Big Ten East. But I asked Commissioner Warren about that, and he pretty much gave the same coach speak kind of answer.
Follow up on that, Commissioner, one of the things that a lot of people talked about in regards to football scheduling is the Big Ten Conference, while being very innovative, was one of the only conference that went to a 9-game schedule. And a lot of coaches or people have thought that has put the conference at a disadvantage. They get a team back in the college football playoffs this year but have missed the last couple of seasons. Is that something that's going to be reevaluated and looked at?
I do feel strongly about the 9-game, schedule. I just think it works and has worked for us. I think one thing about our teams, they're physically and mentally tough. I mean, they're battle tested. They can play anywhere. They can play in a dome. They can play outdoors. And as with most sporting events, these games come down. I'm a big believer of spending my entire 30 years in and around sports, working. And even before that, I've spent my whole life since I was 5 years old around sports. The more complicated these games become, or as you get a little bit down the road, it seems like it comes down to like 2 or 3 plays, and it changes the whole dynamic. So I think what you're seeing, that we're developing our student athletes that are competitors. And so I feel very comfortable where we are. I feel comfortable about the 9-game season. One of the things I don't want to do is create an environment where we're playing games that we shouldn't be playing. I believe that you should play, a tough schedule. It prepares you for the college football playoff. It prepares you for bowl games. But again, that will be something that we'll evaluate. But I just think the way that that's designed right now to play our 9 conference games is really important. And we don't take byes at critical times during the season. We just, in the Big Ten, we're hardy Midwesterners, and we go from Nebraska to New Jersey. We don't have a dome stadium. We play our games outdoors, and we create tough-minded, physical football teams, and who are very creative also. We have some great coaches in our conference. We have some great players, and I think you always see that, not only how the teams do, but you'll look in the draft this year. We'll have a lot of our players who are drafted. And so I'm comfortable, with the way our players are trained and are playing. And as we look over time, and things again are cyclical, but I feel that we have some excellent football teams that will be able to compete for national championships over the next couple of years. And when you feel that, then I'm very comfortable with how our scheduling has happened up until now.
Commissioner Kevin Warren, Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren, taking over for Commissioner Delaney after 31 years. He's only, I think, the fifth commissioner, Todd, in the history of the Big Ten Conference, or fifth, sixth, seventh, something like that. But the Big Ten has been around since the 1890s.
Yeah, that's crazy. Obviously, long tenures for that job, and it's just it's hearing the answers with that. It's like we predict a lot of times what Archie Miller is going to say after a game in his press conference. And, with that guy just stepping into that job, you can almost predict what he's going to say because he has to. He inherits such a weird, a unique situation. He's not going to walk in and say, oh, yeah, that's dumb. We're going to change that. But see what happens in the next 5 or 6 years, and that'll tell you what he really feels about it. And it's weird that he makes a comment about us, the Big Ten preparing, playing the extra Big Ten games, and we don't have any domes. We play our games outside and we do all that. And then the national championship game's in a dome. So, you just look at that and you're almost like, yeah. He's answering it the political way.
Coach speak. Speak. Yeah, it was all coach speak because the truth be told, the 9 games puts the Big Ten at a disadvantage. Back during Big Ten media days, that was a big topic. All the coaches who talked about it. I remember Pat Fitzgerald from Northwestern talked about it at length. But it puts them at a disadvantage, and there's no other way to put it. I don't want to hear that it prepares them. Well, it didn't prepare Indiana for the Gator Bowl. They still lost.
Yeah, but when you look at that overall, when you say it the way that you said it, forget all the other things that go along with it. If you can't win 3 conference games, you probably don't deserve to be in a bowl game anyway. I'm not being a jerk about it. I'm just saying, when you say it that way, if they can't win 3 conference games,
this is for the teams like Indiana that struggle, that's put into the Big Ten East, a juggernaut. That's another issue that has to be brought up is the way that the Big Ten is realignment. You've got the 3 and 4, sometimes 4 best teams in the conference all in one division, and it has been that way. They've talked about, how things are cyclical and this. Well, it has never cycled around to change.
Right.
Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan have always been at the top, and that has yet to change, and there's no signs of that slowing down. So to me, I know that geographically it's set up perfectly right now. You've got the teams divided perfectly geographically. But does it really have to be that way? Because I don't know that it matters.
No, you wouldn't think it does.
Not in the Big Ten Conference. It's irrelevant because in basketball, you're playing them all any damn way, so it doesn't really matter. The only sport that it even matters at all is football. And who cares? You're crossing over to play Western teams anyway. So especially teams like that are right in the middle, like Purdue, Indiana. Yeah, Purdue is geographically, it's probably a few degrees west of Bloomington. There's no doubt. But those are 2 teams you could swap. You could swap Michigan State. There's things that you could do to change it. And I think that's something that they really have to look at because after this length of time, I think it has shown there's not much change going on with those programs.
Yeah, that is definitely something that you would think would be evaluated. Now, the 9 games or whatever, I think that'll be evaluated, and over time, they'll figure out whether they think that's best or not. Money's probably always going to factor into that and going to be the determining factor. There you
go. That's the big thing right there, Todd, is because they get more TV games.
We get that. We understand that, and I get it. But reevaluating, the East-West split and all that stuff, that's definitely something that I think could maybe it's not changed every year, but changed every 3 years or so. It wouldn't hurt to shuffle that up a little bit and just get some teams playing for having a chance to beat others. If it's cyclical, yeah, they're talking about a cycle that goes back to, in the 1800s, like you were talking about. Yeah, if you look at it over that big, long period of time, of course there's going to be cycles of it. But when we look at it over the past 30 years, the cycle's been in one direction.
My man can talk. Let me tell you, Commissioner Warren, he can talk. He went on for a while. I mean, he gives great answers. Super, super nice gentleman. It was very, very fortunate to meet him. But the officiating was something that was brought up, and Rabbi asked this question, and specifically what he asked is about officiating on different days, on how basketball games officiated on a Thursday look and are officiated differently than those played on Sunday, because of the TV audience. Here's that question. Let's hear what the answer was.
Give you a chance to answer it.
I love it.
People often ask why in basketball in the Big Ten is a game on a Thursday basically no blood, no foul, and then on a Sunday it's every little ticky-tack thing is called. People complain about these wide swings of the pendulum. Do you see that occurring, and what are your thoughts about that, and is that something that needs to be kind of addressed?
I have not seen that occur, but now that we're in the thick of basketball season, and I watch multiple sporting events every time that they're on, and especially our teams are playing. And so those are things that I'm constantly looking at, from an officiating standpoint. But as of now, and I've heard that from a few fans unsolicited, but as I watch at the fan, through my fan eyes and also through the eyes of the commissioner, I mean, that's something I always keep an eye on, but it's not something that has jumped out to me that there's been kind of wide swing, from that. But quite naturally, one good thing about it, I get a lot of phone calls, and I'm amazed how people get phone numbers, but I get a lot of phone calls and letters and emails from people, and they've been very respectful. And the thing that it tells me is that our fans are passionate, really are passionate about it. The thing that I've been amazed at is how knowledgeable they are, just like I said with those young boys that sat behind us yesterday. I mean, we have some young fans, so all the way from fans in their 7, 8 years old, all the way up to their 90s, who are passionate about all of our sports and who really understand the rules, and they're not only fans, but they're also they're students of the game, and that's what makes this conference so special.
There you go, Todrick.
Uh-huh.
How about that for coach speak?
Yeah, I mean, here's one thing I would love to have happen, and it's just a waste of time for me to say it because it'll never, ever, ever happen, and I don't know why. But I just want the officials to be held accountable for the job that they do, and rewarded when they do a great job, and penalized when they affect the outcome of a game. And if you recognize who the officials are in a game, then they're doing a bad job. And it seems like you kind of see the same people over and over again, and you recognize when they're officiating games, and that's because they're making themselves a part of the game. And that when that happens, I would just love for some conference somewhere to hold these guys accountable for it. These are grown men. These are grown men and women. There's no reason why they can't be, criticized when they do stuff poorly. Every other job gets criticized when they do stuff poorly. I don't understand why officials are held any different. But, like I told you the other day, a great example is in the Maryland game, and I'm not saying this affected it at all. Indiana should have won the game, and the officials did not affect the outcome of that game. But I told you about this scenario that happened there is during a timeout, the officials, Mark Turgeon had two of the officials' attention the entire timeout. And he didn't even go to his huddle. He spoke to them, and they stayed talking to him the entire timeout. Coming out of that TV break, that timeout break, there were 3 consecutive foul calls, all on Maryland's end of the floor, all against Indiana. 2 of them questionable. 1 of them was legit. And you sit there and you're like, well, I wouldn't have questioned any of those. They would have all been okay. had they not just had a 3-minute conversation with the head coach of Maryland. And they just put themselves in a bad position. And that kind of stuff should never be allowed. But the problem with it is it'll never even be brought up. They'll never even have to explain themselves for it.
No, you see, if you watch a game, throughout any game, watch the coaches, watch them working the official on their sideline.
Sure.
Non-stop, chirping, because they want to get it in their ear that this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So when it finally actually does happen, they want them to see it and call it their way, even though it could have been going the other way the whole time. But it's a very effective ploy if you can get to it. The better officials, of course, are a little less susceptible to that.
Yeah,
So.
No doubt. I mean, you watch Izzo work officials, and invariably within the next 2 or 3 possessions down the court, they're going to get a foul call, and it's just it's not Izzo's fault. I'd work him too if I was him.
But, we got a lot more coming up on the program here today. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary. Indiana takes on Penn State tomorrow night as they hit the road to travel. We were talking about comments that the commissioner made, who was in town over the last few days, the new Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. We'll hear a little bit more about that as well, so we'll keep on that discussion. Hit us up on the text line if you like, 812-269-6367. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, it's Michael Lewis, former Indiana University player and current UCLA assistant basketball coach, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat.
Down in the Badlands, she was saving the best
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle O'Leary with you here, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday, January 28th. Heard from Chronic Hoosier earlier. Lots to get to. Eric Gordon went for 50 last night for the Rockets without James Harden and Russell Westbrook in the lineup. He was 14 of 22 from the field, 6 of 11 behind the three-point line. That's the most points ever scored by a former Hoosier. Eclipsing the mark, 48, tied twice by Walt Bellamy, once by Mike Woodson. I don't see Todd Leary's name on that list.
You won't. You won't. You have to go. You couldn't even come close to finding it on that list.
What's the most points? What is the most points you ever scored in any game?
36.
36 points. That's a lot of points, man.
In the same game, in a high school game, Eric Montross had 38. And Greg Graham had 36.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It was a fun game. Ron Bayless had 25.
Man, I saw yesterday on social media, someone posted, I went to Floyd Central High School, so this only matters to me, but they went to the Final Four in 71. If you go back and look at the teams that are in that Final Four, it is absolutely crazy. The talent. Floyd Central played East Chicago, Washington.
Yeah.
Junior Bridgman. Mel Stoddard that went to North Carolina State, played on the national championship team, pitched in the Major League Baseball for like 14 seasons. What was the guy that went to UCLA? Turgevich. And then Floyd Central had a guy, let's see, Schellenberg played for Wake Forest. Jerry Hale went to Kentucky. Tom Schellenberg went to Alabama. Just trying to think off the top of my head. Then also in that Final Four was from Newcastle, Kent Benson was also in that same Final Four. It's nuts if you go back and look at stuff like that. The talent, that's nuts. We're talking some serious talent there, man.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that's. Obviously, I know the names. I didn't see any of them play, but I know
someone
the names.
posted that game, the semifinal game. It was the last state final games played at Hinkle, by the way.
Really?
But it was the first time I've ever seen that game. And I started to watch. I didn't see all of it. I'm going to go back and watch it. But it was cool. The video was perfect. It wasn't
crazy.
Sped up. It was like what? And the weird thing is, it's almost like watching basketball today. It really was. The guys are just as quick. Their skill levels is there. The shooting's different, obviously.
Are you sure it wasn't sped up?
I'm telling you, man. It was odd. It was weird watching a game that's that old. That was normal. It was kind of odd. The shooting was definitely different because there's no 3-point line, so they're not really pushing that 19, 20 footer. But the shooting sure was a lot better back then.
Yeah, I mean those old games are fun to watch. It's just a lot of them, depending on the style of play that the team had. A lot of those teams back then were so slow. Like you'd see some of the final scores at like 21-15, and it was just miserable. I'm sure to watch. But then the other ones of them scored 90.
Yeah, a lot of people say that East Chicago Washington team is the greatest team in Indiana high school basketball history.
Yeah,
it is very possible.
That'd be a tough to. Yeah, I mean, you could make that argument, I'm sure, but it'd be tough.
But it was sure fun to see that game. I mean, it's just weird that time. Oh my gosh!
What year was Pat Graham? That
1980
junior? Was he a junior?
No, he was a senior. That was his senior year. You're all the same age, aren't you?
I was kidding. You said 1971. Pat's had gray hair since he came out of the womb. So
yeah, I know it. He did. I remember the first time I saw him after not having seen him for a while, and he had that damn gray hair. This is 20 years ago. I'm like, damn, what happened to you, man?
Yeah, I know. He inherited that.
Yeah, he looks just like his dad, doesn't he?
Papa Graham's had white hair forever.
That and those old Bulldogs he just sits down there enjoying every day.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, the Turtles. Bulldogs and Turtles.
Other name for Indiana on the football side of things, Peyton Ramsey. We talked about the possibility of this, and of course it makes complete sense, but he's in the transfer portal. He leaves Indiana, 4th all-time in passing yards, over 6,500. He's tied for fourth in passing touchdowns with 42, tied with Antoine Randall. He's first in completion percentage at 66.4%. Michael Penix currently at 67.5%, but that's still in progress.
I was going to say that's after what, 4 games?
Yeah. He's second in completions, 633. That's ahead of Nate Sudfeld, who currently plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's when Indiana's going to be losing. Of course, wish him the best, but he wants to try to get some playing time in his last season of eligibility, and that probably wasn't going to happen next year unless Michael Penix was to get hurt again. And then you've got Jack Tuttle coming along, who's he'll be in his second season at Indiana. So there's going to be more expected of him as things progress. But it's going to be curious to see where he goes, because I talked about this earlier, Todd. It's going to have to be a situation that kind of takes care of him, because with all these numbers we talked about, this is within a limited system. This is within a refined system that suits his skill set. And possibly playing for Kalen DeBoer out at Fresno State is probably a very, very real possibility.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kalen DeBoer had chosen Michael Penix, above him to start the year out. So you would assume that Kalen DeBoer's probably going to be recruiting at least somebody in that little bit more athletic, mobile quarterback range. But, who knows? That whole transfer portal is interesting, and it makes things really football. I think it makes them way more interesting because there's so many more players, and guys can go explore their opportunities and play other places. It's, you look at the quarterbacks that were in the college playoffs, and I think at least 3 of them were, all 4 of them transfers at some point. I think they might have all been, but it's just unusual how that's working itself out right now.
Michigan head coach Juwan Howard announced on Monday that the guard Xavier Simpson suspended for the Nebraska game for a violation of team policies. They'll miss that game tonight as they are on the road at Nebraska, Todd. Does that make that game a little more interesting?
I think so. I think it probably makes Nebraska the favorite, to be honest with you. I mean, he's their floor general. He's not a great scorer, so I don't think they're going to lose a whole bunch there. They're already struggling. I'm assuming Isaiah Livers is still not going to be available. He's missed like the last 6 or 7 games, and that it would not surprise me a bit for Nebraska to win that game.
Also tonight, Boiler Ball's in action. They travel up to the East Coast, taking on Rutgers.
Yeah, I mean, that would not surprise me for Purdue to win that game.
Really?
Yeah.
That would surprise me to see them win that game. They haven't played that well on the road, and Rutgers has been playing pretty decent.
Yeah, no, Rutgers is, I mean, if you look at it on paper, Rutgers should easily be the favorite in that game. But, when Purdue goes to, their bread and butter, which is Travion Williams, I mean, they had a couple of game stretch where they were feeding him the ball almost every time down the court, and he was scoring. I mean, I think the Michigan game, he had like 38 or some crazy number. So, I mean, they're just a team they could beat anybody on a given night. And just because of their record, I would not say Rutgers is easily going to win that game.
Super Bowl Sunday, man. It seems like you talk about. Remember how that big gap between the college championship, and it just seemed like forever, and it's like you almost forget. You lose interest. Yep. I'm getting to that point right now with this stupid Super Bowl.
Totally agree. I mean, I don't like the 2 weeks, the 2-week layoff, and it seemed like, I think it was even longer in the college football playoff. But this is, I mean, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm ready for it to be full-time basketball. However, I love the Super Bowl. I love this matchup. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. But I'm with you. It's almost disinterested because of how long it's been.
Do you know who potentially are free agents, quarterbacks, or potential free agents in the NFL this year?
Patrick Mahomes.
Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Phillip Rivers, Teddy Bridgewater, Ryan Tannehill, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. That's a pretty damn big list of free agents.
Yeah, I mean the first couple are
staggering.
Will be really interesting. I mean, I don't think you'll see Drew Brees play anywhere other than New Orleans.
Right. Tom Brady, however,
the rest of them, Teddy Bridgewater will be an interesting one because he came in and did such a great job for Drew Brees in the 5 games he was out. I'll be interested to see, if he can translate that over into playing somewhere else.
What do the Colts do?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know.
I mean, we talked about this as a joke before, but can you freaking imagine Tom Brady in a Colts uniform?
Nope.
Would that just be the weirdest thing in the world?
Yeah, I can't see. I mean, it's so absurd that it's just might be possible. I mean, I can't even imagine it. I mean, it's not even been. If you had to name, if you went to avid Colts fans across the state and you said, who's the player that you hate the most in the NFL? Don't you think you'd get at least a 50% response of Tom Brady prior to right now?
Come on, more than that, probably.
Yeah, probably. You're right.
Everybody hates a winner. Everybody hates a winner.
Yeah, when you're on the bad end of that,
when you're the top of the hill, man, everybody wants to knock your ass off.
When you're on the bad end of him being a winner so many different times, you could develop a hatred.
Hey, we talked about this transfer portal earlier, but if this thing was in place back when you were playing, how many guys do you think would have put that thing to use?
A lot. I mean, it's a
because it's a lot easier to do it now. It's a lot easier with that transfer portal.
The one thing about it that I really like is it puts a big emphasis on your schoolwork. I mean, when you've got guys that are really making a concentrated effort to graduate in 3 years, I mean, I don't think you can look at something as a negative when guys are focusing that much on getting their degrees in 3 years. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. I like it.
Yeah, let's see. Who's the best team in the Big Ten right now, basketball? Is it Michigan State or is it Illinois?
I think Illinois is playing the best, but I think Michigan State's the best team. I think Michigan State has the best chance of, if Illinois doesn't shoot the ball well, I think that they stand a bigger chance of losing easily. I think Michigan State just has a little bit more seasoned winning experience. The guard, and this is another way to say this. I think the guards from Illinois can get erratic and a little bit crazy, and if they do, I think they could lose some games that you wouldn't expect them to lose. Now, that didn't happen because they've gone on the road and got 3 consecutive wins on the road in the Big Ten, and we all know that's not easy to do.
Yeah, when does Michigan State and Illinois play?
Week from today. No, 2 weeks from today.
Where do they play?
At Illinois.
Ooh, that's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, they played at Michigan State on January the 2nd. Michigan State beat them by 20. So I think they'll be looking to avenge that loss at
Who
that
wins
point.
tonight?
But I mean, they've got a tough stretch. I mean, they've got Minnesota at home this Thursday, and then they go at Iowa, Maryland at home, Michigan State at home, and then at Rutgers and at Penn State. So they've got a tough schedule, no doubt.
Purdue's at Rutgers tonight. Who do you said you could see Purdue winning the game? Who do you think wins the game? You got Purdue?
Honestly, I do think Purdue will win.
I'll tell you what. What's the what is the spread on that game? All right, I'm gonna give you Purdue +3.
Okay, I'll take it.
Michigan and Nebraska. What's that spread?
Michigan's 4.5-point favorite.
And that's without their guy.
That's without Xavier Simpson. I mean, I'm assuming Isaiah Livers is still not playing, but not for sure on that.
Well, we'll see what the Cornhuskers can do.
Yep.
Because they need to find themselves a win for their own confidence as well, especially being at home.
Butler's got a game tonight at Georgetown. Georgetown's an interesting team with all their suspensions and stuff. Have you followed them at all?
Well, I know that they got those couple guys that he booted.
Yeah, I mean, if you go in and look at their stat lines, I mean, they generally play 6 guys and 6 guys only. Occasionally, they'll play 7, but they are a team. You'll look at their stat sheet afterwards, and it'll be 40 minutes, 39 minutes, 38 minutes. Like their guys are playing some major league minutes.
In the Big 12, Kansas, they're surprising. I think they're rallying around the event that took place. They win 65-50 over Oklahoma last night. That's a pretty big win for them, especially when we know they're going through this cycle of suspensions that they're going through.
Yeah, I mean, from a scoring standpoint, I mean, they lost a rebounding punch. I mean, they didn't lose much from a scoring standpoint.
And really not much of a rebounding punch either. He wasn't doing a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't near as big of an issue. I mean, that guy's been way more Silvio De Souza or whatever.
Right, but it's not just him. There's multiple suspensions that are.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been nothing but trouble for Kansas from the beginning. It's not been his fault. Not been his fault.
Never.
It's just been
his mom, whomever.
Yeah.
Also, North Carolina, man, they've had a really struggling season so far, Todd, but over in the ACC. But they get themselves a nice 75-65 win over North Carolina State.
Yeah, they. I mean, it's kind of interesting. North Carolina's 10-10 on the year, and they've won 2 games in a row with basically no one left on their roster. It's pretty incredible.
And I saw their recruiting class coming in. Oh, gee whiz. They're loaded.
Are they?
Oh, my God. They've got a top recruiting class coming in. So you better take your shots at the Tar Heels right now because they're not going to be down for long.
Yep, no doubt.
We've got a lot more coming up. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We've got lots more coming up right after this. We'll be back.
Watch how strange can be. Little red roosters on the prowl.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
What you've been through, what was this loss like to lose it that way,
A lesson, just like every other loss. We were down, we came back, we fought our way back, got the lead, and then lost it. And it just goes to show that the game could turn at any point.
There's Devontae, short and sweet. That was after the game the other night, Indiana losing to Maryland. And a tight one, but now they go on the road. See if they can pick up the steal a win.
I like his answer that it's a lesson until he says just like every other loss, because that kind of then insinuates that maybe you're not learning something.
Exactly.
If you have too many losses to have lessons for, but I mean, like there is definitely something to learn from that, and I like. I said this after the game in our show, and I'll say it again that I feel better after that loss than after a lot of the wins that we've had, because I really think the team showed a lot of development in some different areas that they have not shown development in, and I thought some guys stepped up and made plays. You know, I went back and watched the game film yesterday, and specifically, if you watch that last 7 minutes, I mean, they need to watch that on repeat over and over again, because there are so many different things they could. If one little thing goes different for them, they probably win the game. I mean, they shot themselves. Indiana shot themselves in the foot time after time after time, and it seemed like every decision that was made. And I'll tell you this: I'm not trying to stir the fire here on any of this.
Why not stir it up?
Well, I mean, you know, I think Trace Jackson Davis is incredible. I think he is going to have such a great career, and we've gone through swings and talking about him where we've talked about him probably being there for 3 years, and then all of a sudden we were scared we were going to lose him after 1 year, and you know, now we're probably back to at least 2 years. We think we've got him, and maybe closer to 3 again. And watching him defensively, like I'm not trying to pick on him. I know he's a younger kid, and the Big Ten is brutal. And I do think with the basketball, from a rebound perspective, he's one of the strongest players in the Big Ten. Like, he does a great job getting two hands on the ball, and you can't get it from him, you know, once he gets a hold of it. But defensively, he got destroyed in the game the other day. And so going back and watching, I think a lot of it's not been verbalized, I don't think, in the public, but I think it probably has, you know, inner squad is I mean, Trace Jackson Davis's defense has really hurt Indiana in a lot of circumstances. And, you know, his defense at the end of the game the other day, I mean, he was basically responsible for 3 of the baskets that Maryland scored pretty easily in the last 3 minutes of that game, and they were all killers. And whether it was missing a switch or not hedging hard enough, or, you know, not rotating on his man, or letting Jalen Smith drive right around him, I mean, it was his defense. His defense really, really hurt Indiana at the end of that game, and that's an area of improvement for him that, you know, he definitely has a lot of room to get better on the defensive end of the floor for Indiana.
Yeah, because Lamar Stevens is certainly going to be a point of emphasis for.
Yeah, that'll be a real interesting matchup. I mean, Lamar Stevens is probably 6'4" at biggest. I mean, maybe 6'3", but he can play the 4 or 5 man. He'll definitely guard a 4 or 5 man.
He
And
plays
can
37 minutes. He played 37 minutes against Indiana in the last game.
Yeah, and he'll play he'll play the 2 position if he needs to. I mean, he can play all over the floor. So
he's one of those guys that's going to step out. He's going to play in the paint, but he's also going to step out and pop a long distance shot on you for now, because he made 3 attempts against Indiana their last time they played.
Yeah, I mean, I just watching him play the other day. He stepped out and made a 3-pointer, and then 2 possessions later, he posted up the big man inside and got a foul, got an and one on him, and he's a tough matchup. I mean,
who guards Lamar Stevens? Is that Justin Smith?
I think so. I probably think he does. I mean, he's going to be. It can't be Trace Jackson Davis or Joey Brunk. I wouldn't think.
No, God no.
So I mean, it'll be a tough matchup. It'll be interesting to see. Now I don't want to also. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis. I love him. Believe me, I love him. I'm so happy he's a Hoosier. He's great. But defensively, I mean, I don't want to pick on him. But if you go back and watch that game and you specifically watch him, man, he killed us on the defensive end of the ball.
I don't want to get ahead but man, who's going to guard Luka Garza? That's got to be Justin Smith, right?
No, heck no. That'll have to be Joey Brunk.
You think? Joey Brunk. Yeah. You think he could keep up with him?
I don't think anyone can. I mean,
there's that. There's
the
that.
Nate Ruvers guy last night for Wisconsin. I mean, they battled and they had Luka Garza pretty frustrated. I mean, Wisconsin. I mean, we think Indiana gave away a game against Maryland the other day. Wisconsin gave that game away against Iowa last night because Iowa did not play very well, and Garza was frustrated. His numbers look good, but if you watch the game, he really didn't play all that well, and he was frustrated and taking some bad shots. And it'll be a tough one. I mean, that's what I do like about this Indiana team is. You can sit there and say, okay, who's going to guard Luka Garza and who's going to do all this? But Indiana having that 1-2 punch of Trace Jackson Davis and Joey Brunk, I mean, that's not easy to prepare for. And I like the makeup of our team right now. I think we'll learn a lot off of that loss the other day.
How does a Lamar Stevens do what he's doing? I mean, we've seen it through the age. We saw Charles Barkley do it at the NBA level, which to me that's even more astounding. Because what was he really? 6'6",
6'4", 6'5", yeah.
I mean, but yet he played in the trees, man, and it's like, wow, how does he do it? And Lamar Stevens is kind of doing the same thing. He's averaging 16, almost 17 points a game, and you just talked about he's a small man, but he plays in the big man's world and gets away with it.
Yeah, he's crafty. He's super strong. I mean, I think he's got a strong base, got a strong butt and legs, and he gets position in there, and he plays it at a different way. I mean, he uses his quickness against big guys versus just trying to brute strength overpower them, and it works out to his advantage a lot. And then he's got a post up game, so if you try to put a guard on him, he'll take him inside and post him up. If you try to put a big man on him, he'll step out and make shots. I mean, he's kind of that mid-range game. Now, here's a guy that's kind of a perfect example of a really, really good college player that I don't know if his game will translate to the NBA at all. I mean, that's why he's a 4-year player at Penn State, because, he might be one of those players that just has an unbelievable college career, and then his game just doesn't translate to what the NBA looks for. He's not crazy athletic. He's not long and tall with a big wingspan. He's not a shooter. So it's just he's a tough transition to that NBA game.
Man, Penn State is a good free throw shooting team. They shoot 70% as a team.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking last night about Iowa and Wisconsin, I think, leading or close to leading the Big Ten, and then both of them, they shoot over 75% as a team. I mean, we barely have any players that shoot 75%.
And look at the difference. Look at the difference in teams. I mean, if people don't understand such a minor thing makes such a major difference. I mean, hell, they lost the Maryland game on free throws.
No doubt about it. Yeah, if you go back and watch some of the look with 5 minutes to go, how many free throws are missed by Indiana? Like, it is. Yeah.
To me, there's just no excuse for it. I'm sorry. I mean, you don't have to be perfect. I get that, but I think you got to be pretty damn good. It's just one of those things that drives me insane. They're free, man. They're free,
and it's never changed.
Not in the history of basketball.
It's never changed. I don't understand how you couldn't continually get better at them,
especially at a guard. I just don't understand how guys whose main job is shooting the ball cannot be a better shooter standing stationary without anybody guarding them from a nice, easy, manageable 15 feet away.
Yep, you don't want to get me started on that because I do not. I do. Any explanation for how guys are not good free throw shooters.
And you know, this is a problem we've seen this Indiana team have that has not gone away. And it has already, we just talked about it cost them the Maryland game. It has cost them other games. It's going to cost additional games. And that has got to be one of the most frustrating things in the world because there's something that you can do about that.
Yeah. I mean, it is for some reason, it's overlooked for the most part, and it's not really talked about. And, you know, when you get down to the end of a game, we talked about this, maybe the Northwestern game. No, the Ohio State game. The Ohio State game that Indiana played here at Assembly Hall, and they ended up winning the game. But I think they shot like 9 of 18 from the free throw line.
Yep.
And we talked about it at that point. Like, there's going to be games when that comes back and bites you. And obviously this was a game. If Indiana, you know, makes 2 more free throws, think about what a sad statement that is. I mean, I can't even remember what Indiana shot from the free throw line in the game the other day. I usually remember that stuff, but I can't remember what we were from the free throw line. But I do remember specifically watching a couple of guys miss free throws at the end of the game. And it just, even with all the mistakes that were made, with everything that still happened at the end and all that, if you make your free throws, you still put that game away. And it's just, I'm telling you, the turnover with Jerome Hunter at the end is, you don't want to say you can pinpoint a certain play here and there, you know, or a player on a loss or whatever, but the turnover that Jerome Hunter had, I mean, do we realize that there was 28 seconds on the shot clock? Like, we still had 8 more seconds to get it across the line. He could have turned around and given it back to whoever threw him the ball. And they still had 8 more seconds to cross the line.
Every time I watch that, I watch a guy who is in complete fear of that position. He should have never, ever, and I'm going to blame Archie Miller for this. Maybe Archie's getting him the experience for later. Maybe that's the purpose of it. I don't know. But that is not who should have been in there. He did not. He looked so uncomfortable in that position and so in fear.
Think about this on that particular possession. The ball was inbounds to Trace Jackson Davis, who then in turn threw it to Jerome Hunter, who then turned it over.
No one that should have been touching the ball has touched the ball yet.
The last 2 people on the team the last 2 players in the game that should have touched the ball are the only 2 players.
I know you're going to disagree with this, but that is Archie Miller. You just came out of a break. You can't tell your guys exactly what the hell to do to save a game. You have to take over and be the guy that is running the show and run the damn show and make sure your guys do what they need to do. Because that's not happening. You can't trust guys that obviously don't have the experience and are fearful. I mean, Jerome Hunter looked like he was in complete fear when that ball got to him. It was a panic situation.
He did. He was panicked. So I'll tell you this. I mean, I'll challenge you to go back and watch it because Trace Jackson Davis caught the ball and threw it to Jerome Hunter like it was a hot potato. And there was no one. It wasn't like there was a trap on Trace Jackson Davis. There wasn't anyone running at him. He just got rid of it as quick as he could for absolutely no reason. He could have stood there and held on to it. But for some reason, he looked panicked. He looked in a hurry, which I think made Jerome Hunter be in a hurry. And for some reason, we were trying to push the ball down the court. And you see, if you would have watched Wisconsin and Iowa last night. Like they were pressuring I think Iowa was pressuring for the majority of the second half. And if you would have watched Wisconsin, they crossed half court with 22 or 21 on the clock almost every time across the court. And that's just their patience and their poise. And they got a junior and a senior guard that have both played a ton of minutes, and they just take their time getting it across half court. And if Indiana had done that, they win. It's that simple. I know I'm rehashing it, and I watched it too many times yesterday. But hopefully when we go back to what Devontae Green just said in that clip after the game, if they can learn a lesson from it, I hope that they just play with some more poise and realize you've got 10 seconds to cross that line, because if they hadn't have been in such a hurry, I really think they'd have won that game.
Yeah, again, you have a 6-7 point lead with a minute to go at home. Man, I don't care what happens. There's just no excuse. And they did everything they could to lose that game, and they just looked completely overmatched. They just didn't look like it. It was weird. It was just weird to watch a team almost implode, and they just didn't have the confidence to finish that game.
Yeah, here's the thing. I said this to you when we were watching it. Here's the thing I really didn't understand was Rob Finney was the guy taking the ball out of bounds. Like, he's the guy I want to have the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
And maybe the play was supposed to be to get it back to him. Maybe, after he throws it in, they're supposed to get the ball back to him. I'm not sure, but
it didn't happen. That's not what happened.
It definitely didn't happen. And here's the thing. Even after that particular turnover, the next possession, Indiana did the exact same thing. Rob Finney took it out of bounds again and threw it in again. And it just, I didn't understand that play selection.
It cost the game. It without question cost the game. And I think that those are things that you go back and you look at and you say, hey, I'm sorry, but this one's on, players lose games, coaches lose games. This one's on the coach. The players made the mistakes, but I'm sorry. You have to put them in the position to do what they have to do. And I don't know that was done here. But it doesn't matter now. It's gone.
Moving forward.
They got to move forward. Seriously, you got to move forward, and you do have to learn from it. Both. Archie's got to learn from it. The players have to learn from it. The players need to be able to do that on the floor. They shouldn't have to have Archie. God dang it. They've been playing basketball for a long time. They need to be able to do that on their own. Archie shouldn't have to do that, but he has to do it when you have a group that's not there yet.
When they prove that they can't do it, you got to take control of that.
Exactly. So, but we got a lot more to get to. Finish the show up listening to Indiana Sports Beat. Coy O'Leary with you here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Green. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle Leary with you here on this Tuesday. It's January 28th. We're almost done with January. I cannot believe that. Shocking. Text into the show from Josh down at Floyd Knobs. Indiana has to win these next two road games. I'm not buying Penn State like most people. They aren't very big, and they don't shoot the three very well. Contain Stevens, and they're very beatable. It's Josh from Floyd Knobs.
Yeah, I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, containing Stevens, for one. But that's not, he's also not their only player. I mean, Mike Watkins that comes in is a good shot blocker, and the weird part is he doesn't start most of the time, but I mean, he averages almost a double-double. They've got some guards that can shoot the ball pretty well. So, I mean, I don't know that I would say they're not a great three-point. I mean, they're only 32%, so they're not terrific, but, they're just smart. They got veterans, and there's, that's a stat that it's hard to measure. I mean, it's hard to value how important. They've got a guy that comes in off the bench that can knock down threes in Curtis Jones Jr. Indiana fans are very familiar with him. And that's a guy that on this particular Indiana team would probably be getting a lot of playing time.
Jennifer from Evansville sends in a text that it's funny because I was thinking this very thing the other night. Her text says, Archie said the kids aren't always listening in a timeout on his radio show. He said that he writes out who the players should be guarding on the whiteboard because they always don't hear or listen to him. What would have happened if Todd hadn't listened to Coach Knight in the timeout?
That just wasn't an option.
Like a whiteboard across the head?
Yeah, I mean,
it's the same thing for me. I mean, I didn't play for Bob Knight, but it was the same thing for me in a huddle in football or any sport. If your coach is talking to you and you're not listening, I'm going to expect have one upside the head. I'm like, and I saw this the other night. Is the reason I'm laughing is because in rewatching the game, Archie's on the sideline talking to an individual player, and they're looking away. They're not even looking at him, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, but there's a lot of times when Coach Knight would be screaming and yelling at me, and I wasn't looking at him. Right.
And I thought that very thing, but I think that's slightly different because they're hearing what Knight is saying, but yeah, it just makes you wonder. But when you have a coach that says that really makes you wonder. What do you mean they're not listening to you? They're not listening to you?
I'm gonna have to just say I'm assuming that's coming a little bit out of context. I'm assuming that's – I don't think he's saying, hey, these guys don't listen to me. Because in that scenario, you would just bench them. I mean, you wouldn't play them. It's that simple.
But we've thought that about a lot of other things, and the benching didn't come either, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. I think there's a different context to what he's actually saying and how that can be translated.
Right on. Another text into the show. Does Jones have a good game against Indiana?
Well, I mean, I think he's gonna sure be trying. I mean, he's a guy
that's going to be up Indiana's defense.
He's got the kind of game that Indiana has struggled with. I mean, guys who can make outside shots. I used to think this all the time. Like, he and Devontae were kind of interchangeable players. Like, they kind of played a lot alike. And so, it's kind of the same way. If he gets hot, yeah, I mean, I forget what game they just got done playing, but I think it was Michigan, I think. And I mean, he got hot. He had like 18 points in the second half. But he doesn't do that very often. I mean, he only averages 7 points a game. So it's not like that's a regular thing. It's kind of like Devontae. I mean, when he gets hot, he's unstoppable, but it just doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason. You look at it this way, and I'm not trying to make him out to be a bad person or anything, but when a guy's been to 3 different colleges, been to 3 different schools, it's kind of got a little bit of a stigma. There's a reason why he's been to 3 different schools, and he's probably not the greatest listener in the world.
Yeah, and maybe he's to the point where he knows this is his last shot, because this is his last collegiate shot, no doubt. He goes nowhere from here.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. I mean, you only get 4 years to play, so you've been to 3 different schools. You're about the end of the gamut. Then you go to Iowa. That's exactly right. Then you get a 5th, 6th, 7th year. That's a really good point that you bring up there, Jake.
It's a good place to hide out at Iowa because it's not, it doesn't get a ton of attention. They kind of fly below the radar a little bit. And you're like, wait a minute, this guy's been here for 8 seasons, man.
I swear Jess Settles played 8 seasons for them.
Oh, the neatest thing I learned yesterday in meeting new Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. He played basketball at the University of Pennsylvania. A. But that's not the best part. B. He was a teammate with Fran McCaffrey.
Really?
Yes. Fran McCaffrey was his senior when he was a junior, when he was a freshman. I cannot wait to talk to Coach Fran McCaffrey again. He was on the show with us during basketball media days. Look forward to getting him on again, but cannot wait to ask him about that. That's kind of nice having a connection to the commish. Yeah. Remember when I used to kick your ass in basketball?
Yeah, exactly. No doubt.
Oh man. Or it could be the other way. Like, hey, remember when you used to kick my ass in basketball?
Fran McCaffrey, he can get heated. I saw him get teed up.
Oh my God, there's nobody in basketball now. You used to have Frank Martin, and this is courts after Bob Knight, but you had Frank Martin there.
Martin.
He's at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Fran McCaffrey, you got the FranCom. FranCom 1, FranCom 5. He can blow a gasket now.
Yeah, when his face gets red and he gets going. Whew,
oh my God. It's just fun to watch the FranComs.
It is. He got fired up last week, that's for sure.
I got to tell you, watching Iowa play is fun.
I agree with you. They're a fun team to watch. They are as dangerous as any team in the country because when they get hot, they're the best shooting team in the country. And you know how hard it is to stop teams like that. And they can also, I mean, this is why I've said Indiana, like I like being an Indiana fan because we've got a more solid base and foundation of something that's repeatable. And the way Indiana plays and playing inside out is more repeatable than relying on the 3-point shot. Last night, I mean, Iowa really struggled to score. They struggled to make shots. I think they were at one point they were like 2 for 18 from the 3-point line, and they were just really struggling. But when they get hot, every single player on that floor can step back and make difficult, deep 3-pointers. And that's the kind of team that can go on a little shooting run. They remind me a little bit of the 2002 Indiana Final Four team. You remember how hot that team got shooting the ball in the tournament with Kyle Hornsby and Fife and Coverdale and all those guys. And it was, I mean, they can beat anybody. They can go on a run and beat anybody.
We need to get Tom Coverdale back on.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite. He was one of my favorite players to watch. He got more out of his ability, more out of that body than he was supposed to.
I'll tell you who I'm going to get on this week. Kirk Hastings. He was at a game last week.
Yeah, he was.
I did not know that. I wish I'd have known that. Kirk's been on the show several times. One of the absolute best guests we can have. He's just
a nut. He's going to.
I
remember he went through some horse racing.
You should have been on.
You.
Oh, did you hear that? You heard that?
I was on the same day, and I heard him do that the same day that he was on like a year ago. It was so weird.
No, it was 2 years now. I played it. We played it last year for Derby.
Oh, did you? Okay.
But it was the year before that. But, yeah, I could not believe that. And I almost hated to replay it because since the man is now a state senator, but I'm like, I can't help it. This is gold, man.
Why would you hate to replay it?
Well, I don't want to tarnish the senator's reputation, but because one of these days this dude's going to be a real senator. He's too good with people. He's just too natural. I mean, you talk about personalities. We talk about people not having personality, whatever. Kirk Hastings ain't that guy. He is the guy. He is everybody's friend. That's why he got elected. That he's just a super, super great guy. And I can't wait. I gotta get him back on soon.
I thought he got elected because he hit that shot against Michigan State.
That probably didn't hurt any. It certainly doesn't.
I mean, I'll love him forever. I'd vote for him no matter what, just because of that.
But yeah, he's a nut, man. He always has great night stories too. He tells some great ones. He's just a character, man. But yeah, I look forward to getting him back on, man.
Yeah, I saw he was at the game last week, but
I didn't see him. I got to start getting even earlier to the games. I'm missing out on a lot, man. I didn't realize he was there. I hate that.
Well, getting there earlier ain't going to help you any because
no, if I had gotten there earlier.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like those guys they're not there that early.
Well, no, they're there.
Just
they're
you
back.
And I are there
they're back around the back, getting taken care of in the Tobias room or whatever's back there.
Yeah, good call.
Where people trust me. People talk about alcohol and all that at Assembly Hall. It's there. It's just not for the everyday folk.
It's just not for sale. It's there.
It's there. It's not for the everyday folk.
Yep.
But I think that's coming too next year. It's got to be. I mean,
you think so?
It's got to be. I mean,
there's no reason why it wouldn't be. I mean,
they've already started in football, and it's a success. They had no problems. Purdue started it with football. They moved on to Mackey. They've been selling it in Mackey for 2 seasons now. So there's no reason for them not to do that. I mean, we'll see, but I mean, don't be pretentious and not do it. It's ridiculous. But we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I don't. If it's happening to football, there's no reason why it wouldn't happen to basketball. I wouldn't think.
Yep. Well, man, it's been a great one. Been a fun one. Looking forward to it tomorrow on the program.
Excited for game day.
Rick Bozich is on tomorrow. Of course, he's with Fox 41 in Louisville, but Rick's been around. He's been the head of the National Basketball Writers Association. He is a veteran, been on ESPN so many times. It's not even funny. Former columnist for the Louisville Courier-Journal. He's written for ESPN or everywhere. But so everybody knows Rick Bozich. Been around forever.
He's covered IU for 30 years.
Do you know who the high school he went to high school, same high school as Greg Popovich?
No, I did not know that.
Maryville.
Same time?
He's from Maryville. He's from the region. He's a region rat.
Huh. I did not know that. No.
Isn't that weird?
How'd he get stuck down there in the armpit?
Well, he went to IU. He's an IU student, but he was in, the IDS, and he was become a writer, and he got a job at the Courier-Journal in Louisville.
He's been stuck in the armpit of the United States ever since.
Whatever. Pat Forty's down there. The famous writers.
They are famous writers.
Armpit. I got your armpit.
Armpit of the country, Kentucky.
Well, that is the armpit.
You disagree with that?
No, yeah. I do not.
Exactly.
I do not.
So you just were sensitive.
I thought Rick.
About...
Well, when I knew Rick, he lived in southern Indiana.
Uh-huh.
The sunny side of Louisville, as it is known down there.
Gotcha.
Hey, that's going to wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow with plenty more. Rick Bozich joins us. We appreciate everybody. Appreciate Jake for keeping us on the track. Thanks to Todd as well. From the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.